So one commonality that most Canadians and in fact anyone around the world who knows the name Justin Trudeau has in common is that we all pretty much understand that there's something very, very wrong with him. And it's just getting worse by the day. And somehow he still has a massive platform to go and spew a bunch of crap. And it doesn't make any sense because people are fed up with it. And he goes around and trots around the world saying we need to combat disinformation and blah, 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 blah. Yet he's the super spreader himself. It doesn't make any sense. We're going to be taking a look at that and much more, as well as Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party, had a bit of a meltdown, to say the least. And she dropped the F-bomb. I know, crazy, but you're going to have to wait to see that later on in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it today. So we're going to start off with the polls. Still looking copacetic across the board here. Conservatives sitting at 213 projected seats. Bottom line 179, top end 234. And 72 seats projected for Liberals and a measly 18 seats for the NDP. 99% likely for the Conservatives of winning the most seats, and as well as 99% likely for the Conservatives of winning a majority government. So everything there is looking good. Now let's take a look at some things that are not looking good, such as this latest update that Justin Trudeau says that Canada will provide Ukraine with an additional $500 million in military assistance. And my only response to that is, that's it? That's it? Come on, we've given so much more in the past. Why stop at 500 million? Why not billions? I mean, we just print money. We make it up as we go along. This is the problem with Canada, is nothing makes any sense. It's just giving that money away. Why? We have Indigenous communities here that don't have water. We have Canadians living on the streets. We have homelessness is skyrocketed, failed social programs. Canada is living, the current failing government is living by this rule of thumb of spend as much money and make it as horrible as you possibly can for every single person, and then gaslight them and try to get reelected. And I don't see it working this time around because everybody is pissed off with that. Next up, we have Canada is going to stop processing student permits for colleges and universities that fail to track international students, which is somehow not hasn't been done yet. What? Why does Canada have this open border policy where just come in and do your student visa, time here, and then carry on like as if nothing ever mattered and maybe just continue to live in Canada once your visa expired? I don't really get Canada. I don't think a lot of people really understand the system, and that's not disrespect to you. It's more disrespect towards the system that it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all. Canada rewards failure. Canada rewards illegal activities. Canada rewards illegals. Canada rewards anything but hardworking legal Canadians. That's kind of what I mean by that. But I'd love to know what you guys think about this here. And should we maybe just cut back a little bit on immigration or student visas? Let me know what you guys think down below. Because for those who didn't know, Canada has set another record. That's right. Not in a good way either, which really none of our records are in a positive light, other than obviously maple syrup. But Canada has the busiest highway in the world. Let's take a look at this.
So the busiest highway in the world isn't in a massive nation with a massive population like India, China, or the United States. It's in Canada. Highway 401 is the busiest highway in the entire world. That just surprises me. The Greater Toronto area has a little less than 6 million people. It's definitely not the most populated city in the world, obviously. There are cities with a much larger population. It just surprises me that a city like Mumbai, Tokyo, or Beijing has a higher population than this, or even any American city too, like New York City or Los Angeles. Highway 401 is still the busiest highway in the world. Like that, I just can't comprehend that, right? Everyone from Toronto has their own experience with waiting in traffic on Highway 401, whether it's in the express lane, the collector's lanes. There's just so many stories. Just Canadians, let us know everything, please. Tell us about your experience.
And that kind of summarizes Canada in a nutshell. It's busy. It's overcrowded. We don't have the infrastructure. And if you're living in Toronto, if you want to go west, you turn right. And if you want to go east, you turn left type of thing. Or maybe I got that mixed up. But nonetheless, Canada is pretty simple to traverse. There's just like one way across the country. Like there's not a bajillion highways because there's no way to really get from up north down south on an angle. You just go straight across, very close to the border. Anyways, it doesn't make any sense is the point. And that just kind of adds more to the fact that why are we spending so much money on other countries? That $500 million that we're giving Ukraine, you know, we could just build another highway across the country or another railroad or I don't know, other things. I would love to know what you guys think about that. And this next piece here is very interesting. So the LCBO is on strike. One of the largest, if not at one point, it was the largest liquor purchaser in the entire world. Like LCBO is apparently addicted to alcohol. They buy the most out of anyone in the entire world. Kind of crazy, fun little fact. Well, they are going on strike, which means that it's a little bit more limited to buy your alcohol in Ontario, which is what a lot of people would have thought. But the Premier of Ontario came out and had a website designed that had a map of all the places where you could buy your alcohol. That is not the LCBO, which is the biggest FU that I've ever seen the Ontario Premier ever do. And now there's information coming out of LCBO about their employees that are on strike. And it turns out that they make a lot of money. LCBO wages. So right here, there is a website that apparently shows how much money certain people made in their certain jobs. $104,000 earned in 2022 as a warehouse worker, $130,000 as a warehouse worker, which if this is factual, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it absolutely is, it hasn't been community noted. It has 250,000 views on X. That's insane. That's insane. And someone's saying fire them all and sell the buildings. That's a lot of money. Like compared to other warehouse worker positions, that is a massive amount of cash. $130,000 or $127,000 a year to be a warehouse worker, or maybe it's a warehouse manager, but it didn't say manager, it said worker. So kind of interesting that LCBO wages are now coming to light and people are going, oh, so maybe we shouldn't feel bad about you guys going on strike. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, we have America taking some pot shots here at Justin Trudeau. The U.S. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, with all due respect to our Canadian friends, they are a long way away from hitting the 2% mark. A whole lot of the rest of NATO members have. And this is a bit of an addition to the video that I previously made on this channel, where NATO actually is contemplating kicking out Canada because of Justin Trudeau. There is a 2% minimum, not 1.5%, not you try but you didn't succeed 2% minimum baseline for how much you're supposed to contribute of your given country's GDP to the defense budget for NATO. And Canada keeps falling extremely short. Not 1.95%, not 1.85%, but like significantly under 1.5%, which that turns out to be a lot of money. And all of that is obviously going to Ukraine, which is not going towards our NATO contribution, bare minimum requirements, as well as Trudeau defending that, saying, well, we're fighting climate change. We're the leaders in climate change. And NATO's going, okay, yay, climate change, sure. Yeah, we need to pay attention to that, but like give us the money. And so it's not looking good, especially when American politicians are going, yeah, Canada, the clock is ticking and you're almost out of time.
Our adversaries are watching the videos of the president just like we are. They see the same thing we do. Do we have a situation today where leaders like Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un are becoming more aggressive, testing the boundaries more closely because of the weakness they see in this administration and the condition of the president?
Well, with regard to the administration, that's a good question to ask the next group. Before recent times, it was pretty obvious to any observers that we had big power competition from China and Russia, a great ally for them in Iran, and Iran funding the proxies. I mean, this is clearly the most dangerous period since right before World War II. So completely unrelated to who happens to be in the White House at the moment, we need to step up. And a good time to emphasize that is while NATO is celebrating its 75th anniversary right here in Washington. We need to make it clear that we're behind NATO. There are allies in Indo-Pacific who are here as well. Every democratic country in the world is together against this coterie of authoritarians. And what a great time to emphasize that we're all together. I had a similar conversation yesterday with the president of Latvia. I mean, they're right up next to the Russians. And then the majority leader and I and some others met with the Canadian Prime Minister. With all due respect to our Canadian friends, they're a long way from hitting the 2% mark. But a whole lot of the rest of the NATO members have. We only had 3 countries hitting the 2% mark a few years ago. Now we have 23. So I think everybody who elects their government realizes we're all in this together.
We are supposed to be, and this is where it becomes extremely controversial because a lot of people are under the impression that NATO is bad, and it might actually be very good for us to get kicked out of NATO. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Now we do finally have the RCMP commissioner who confirms that the police will interview anyone involved as part of their investigation into Trudeau's $60 million Arrive scam. This includes Trudeau, his ministers, and his officials. This comes after the RCMP has literally on their website, and I mentioned this in the previous video, come out and said that they are going to criminally charge individuals, federal consultants to the Liberal Party that are responsible for this money laundering scam that they have caused. So this is absolutely incredible. It's a massive victory for like not even just freedom, just justice here in Canada. Like, it's incredible. But let's take a look at what the commissioner has to say.
So it's important for Canadians to know if senior officials from the Liberal government are being investigated for criminality because there's been a reference made to you by an independent officer of Parliament. You said that you're unable to tell us who is the target of any of your investigations. So my question is this: if the evidence leads you there, will you commit to Canadians to interview any senior government official, including any minister, including the Prime Minister, if those conversations or interviews would be germane to your investigation?
Well, Mr. Chair, I can commit that our team will follow every single lead of investigation evidence and interview the people who we must interview in our investigation.
So that includes that would include anyone, including senior government officials or elected officials?
That, Mr. Chair, would include anyone.
It is going to happen. You're going to see Justin Trudeau likely testify against the Arrive scam, and he's going to say he didn't know anything, and it's, you know, beyond his pay grade, either above or below, or it doesn't matter, and it just doesn't make any sense. The Prime Minister's net worth is apparently reportedly over 100 or close to $100 million. That on its own makes no sense, and there should be a massive investigation into that. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Now we're taking a look at Justin Trudeau, who had this very weird appearance, and he is talking about the housing crisis, and it's just so bizarre. It's so beyond progressive. It's woke. It's radical. Let's take a look at some of these clips here.
One of the things that always comes up for me is the idea that, you know, on housing, you have a whole bunch of older folks who are living in houses that are too much house for them right now, but their connection to neighborhood, to community, means that no, they don't want to move out to the suburbs or to some different city to be closer to their grandkids. They want to still live in their community's quality of life, and there is no housing that they can afford even to downsize other than staying in their big house. So where you're actually working to increase the amount of apartments or senior assisted living centers in neighborhoods where people currently live in single family homes. That's a piece that you can actually, I don't know that goes directly at the animals challenge here, but it does start to look at the kinds of things that give you a way out that will eventually shift those numbers in a meaningful way.
Eventually shift those numbers in a meaningful way. It almost sounds like the budget is going to somewhat balance itself. That is unfortunately not the only clip. We do have another one here pulled up. Let's take a look at this.
How do we, as Gen Xers and those old, how do we talk to an older demographic and say, wow, let us recognize how much we're asking for younger folks? And are there ways for us to reciprocate more, including in the world of politics, to help deliver more of the policy adaptations that can help make hard work pay off for younger folks the way that it did some decades ago?
One of the stats that fascinated me is, there are countries in which home ownership levels are much lower, where people don't put all their retirement eggs into the home equity basket, right? I mean, like the idea that you would have, you'd buy a home, you'd pay off the mortgage, and then you'd watch the value of it skyrocket, and that would be your pension.
That's my story, by the way.
Well, bully for you. I know.
No. You can have me on the hot seat.
No,
this
I
is
know.
the reality.
This is it. And we've taken those last, 10, 20 years of massive increase in value of homes as sort of a new normal, as, okay, this is the way the system works, and it's tough, but it means that we're going to have value in our homes that we can therefore retire on. And I tend to think that if we were a country that did a better job in helping people plan for retirement, in better pensions, so there wouldn't be that massive gap in terms of people who rent, throughout their lives.
Okay, this is what doesn't make any sense among one of the many insane amount of things that don't make sense here in Canada. He's talking about securing people's financial, freedom, retirement, right? This guy is going after capital gains. It doesn't make any sense. He's saying one thing and doing another, and it's so frustrating because the only people that really get a pension are government employees. Everyone else, if you're a contract worker, if you work for a private company, whatever it is, and a lot of people, I think like more than 50% of people work for private companies in Canada, they don't have pensions. Sure, you contribute off of your pay into like CPP or something, but you don't get a government pension, right? It's just so frustrating, man. This guy, and then he wants to tax it all. Tax it all, tax it all, tax it all.
There are lots of cities around the world where people just accept that they're going to rent their entire lives, but they're not feeling they're going to be impoverished in retirement. Well, other people who rent in Canada feel like they have a big piece of a nest egg that's simply not there because they've been renters all their lives. There's a challenge there that I think there are elements of policy solutions, but the big thing is we just have to slow down on the speculation, right? I mean, like housing prices and value should increase over a lifetime, but you shouldn't be able to flip a home 8 years later and have it double the price, right? I mean, there's something unsustainable, and it moves housing into an investment vehicle rather than a vehicle for supporting a family and building a community around it. And as soon as it's an investment vehicle, you have people who have money using it as a way of generating more, as opposed to saying, okay, everyone should have an opportunity to do this.
So let me get this straight. He's sitting there scratching his head going, I don't know how we got here. I don't really know how people have now the ability to flip a house and it increase in value 2x in 8 years. Buddy, houses doubled in value in the past 4 years. I would go out and say 3.5, maybe 5 years, never mind 8 years. He's absolutely insane. He's let open borders for immigration. Millions of Canadians have come in the past few years, like over 1.2 million per year, something outrageous like that. It doesn't make any sense. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We're not building enough homes to sustain that. That's why, that's like a very similar example as to why water costs so much at an airport. You ever notice that? You go to a convenience store, you go to a grocery store, you get a bottle of water, it's $2. Used to be like 99 cents. Now it's $2, $2.50. You're walking around at the airport, it's $4.75 or $5.50 for that exact same bottle of water, right? Or if you're right? Doesn't make any sense. Supply and demand, because you're stuck at an airport. There's nowhere else to go. You can't go to the grocery store. You can only buy things in the airport. So of course they jack prices up. That's what's happened here in Canada. Justin Trudeau is responsible for that. He's made Canada an airport, literally and metaphorically. Wow. Absolutely crazy. And there is so many people that are pissed off about this. And that's a great segue into the Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, having a complete meltdown. Let's take a look at this awesome footage here.
I've got another grandbaby coming at the end of October, and I feel very, very committed, as I think everybody my age should. Baby boomers have this planet, and we can't walk away and leave it for our kids to fix it. And I'm sorry I just used the F word out loud, but I think kids understand what I'm saying. I'm a 70-year-old, angry, cranky version of Greta Thunberg. And am I ready? You bet.
Okay, who speaks like that? Thunberg? It's Greta Thunberg. Like, why are you pronouncing it in the very weird way? You're Canadian. Don't pretend to Greta Thunberg. It's Greta Thunberg. Like, what the hell's the matter with you? Also, baby boomers, which is probably a lot of the viewers here. Congratulations. You guys are responsible, apparently, according to the Green Party. That's a great way. If you've ever thought about voting Green, or you ever have in the past, what a phenomenal way to get more votes from Canadians. You guys are responsible for what's happening to our country, not the government, not all these taxes, not the open border policy, not the complete and utter failure, but you guys, the baby boomers, you are responsible. How does that make you feel? Does that make you fucking angry? But it really should. It absolutely should make you angry when the government is going, it's you guys, not the government, you guys that are making things worse for everybody. That is just so frustrating. And it shows any lack of accountability in government. And it's not the Liberals. It's not just the NDP. It's not even the Green Party's fault. It's you guys. You guys somehow screwed up the entire world, or just Canada. Absolutely insane. And speaking of insane, you have some Liberal MPs that are doing an interview here, and they are going around saying that social media companies must be held accountable for posts that spread misinformation online.
Alistair, what would you say to that in terms of government responsibility versus others?
Well, I mean, I think we need some measure of algorithmic transparency at holding these companies accountable for their terms of service and investing in fact-checking, because again, I know people might grow concerned about a growing government role in this, but in the absence of that, what you're essentially saying is you're trusting people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg to do the policing for you. Billionaire CEOs whose only interest is to get more profit returned to their companies to pad their bank accounts. So again, if you remove the word social, these are media companies. You as a journalist and all media, traditional media, are held to journalistic standards. I think we need to see some sort of similar thing where there is some reliable way of fact-checking the content that is put out there, because again, it gets disseminated so fast and so quickly, and we're often having to be put in the positions as politicians to react to it.
I don't like making fun of people's appearances, and that's by no means what I'm doing. But it's been a long time since I've ever seen Dumb and Dumber. Is it the hair that makes him look like that? I don't know. Maybe that's disinformation. I'm not sure. But just off my own recollection of that one time or two times that I've seen the movie Dumb and Dumber, that just I'm making the connection there. Okay, so social media companies don't do enough to combat disinformation, which is absolutely why you can post anything online on YouTube without censorship, right? Wrong. YouTube is insane with their censorship policies. And X has a brand new method of censorship or community noting, which I guess it isn't really even a form of censorship. It's just a public way of saying that this isn't really right, or this is, misinformed. Here are the correct information and the correct answers, or the original source, yada, yada, yada. Right. And they have a pretty good system of doing it. And I'm not going to blow smoke up his ass and say that it's perfect. I absolutely can acknowledge that there are probably some flaws with community notes. I haven't really gone down that spiral yet, but that's a pretty good way, for the people, by the people. When you give the government anything, they find a way to fuck it up every single time. And this failing government now, and the NDP, who stand for going after billionaires, CEOs and stuff like that, when the leader of the NDP spends the most money out of any other politician. But billionaire CEOs are the problem, not your leader of the NDP that wears a multi-$1,000, like a $20,000+ Rolex on his watch. That just sounds hypocritical. It's like owning a race car and seeing a faster, better race car and saying, hey, that's not fair. You can't have that type of race car in this race. I'm the only race car that's supposed to be allowed. That is a brilliant analogy for the NDP's motto. It doesn't make any sense at all. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about any of the topics that were covered, please let them fly free down below. That's where we're going to end this video. On your way out, I would like to encourage you guys one last time to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Baby boomers are ruining everything. Shit.